Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the evening session of the Extraordinary Technology Conference 2017. I'm about to introduce a speaker who really needs very little introduction. I don't think that there's a field of study in this fringe science world that hasn't been touched in some way by this man. I know that many researchers have based a lot of their work off of his work and his presentations. He has disseminated and brought to the forefront of public consciousness the concepts of Browns gas. He's been doing this since 1986. He's been working with Browns gas. I remember battery charging technology, HHO cutting, vehicle boosting, the whole gambit. Today, he's going to be speaking upon HHO, Browns gas, and health applications. And I, for one, am very looking forward to this. I'd like you all to give a warm welcome to George Wiseman.
Thank you, Bernard. It is so nice to see familiar faces and new faces. I'm so happy to see people that I've been wanting to see for a long time, and like Bob Boyce, for example, and old faces like Moray and Al, and everyone else here. It's good. I've been, as it was pointed out, doing this for quite a long time. I feel like I've got quite a long more time in me, and it's just getting more exciting as we go. So today, I am introducing the Browns gas for health for real. I'll explain what I mean by that a little bit more as we go. In this case, my mission is to help people regain and maintain health using specially treated and reformed water. Everyone knows that people are mostly water by volume. And it depends, men supposedly 65, 70%, women a little bit higher. Thus we're mostly oxygen by weight, because oxygen atoms weigh 16, whereas, and O2 is 32, whereas hydrogen just weighs 1, or 2, as in H2. So, but it also means that the body is mostly hydrogen by volume. This is really important, you'll see as we continue along with the presentation, because there are 2 hydrogen atoms for every oxygen atom, and every atom takes up the same amount of space. So the only thing that varies is the weight. So that's why we're mostly hydrogen by volume. That's really important. So hydrogen is part of virtually every chemical process in the body. There's nothing that I've found yet that isn't touched by hydrogen in one way or another. Even our DNA is built around a spine of water. Every single part of us has to do with water. Water and hydrogen is the biggest part of water by volume. So everyone knows if we don't get oxygen, we're dead in minutes. You get 3 minutes, you're unconscious, 5 minutes, it doesn't take very long, you're dead. And we can get oxygen just by breathing. However, hydrogen, okay, let's see, why is it, okay, sorry. For some reason that other thing repeated, my error. If hydrogen is so important, why don't we die if we don't get it? Like, we can't breathe hydrogen. Hydrogen is always tied up with something in nature. The fact is, we would die if we didn't get it. And the body has incredible complex mechanisms, simple and complex, to keep the hydrogen that you have. So therefore, if you don't drink water, for example, you can last for several days. Whereas if you stop breathing, you would be dead in minutes. So you would die. You can't exist without hydrogen, and you need hydrogen input on a relatively constant basis. And it's so important that our bodies, and this is something that no one in the medical field, it's like the most important thing there is, and it's unknown. It's completely unknown. I'm trying now to make it known. Most of the universe is made of hydrogen. I think of it as the molecule or atom that's closest to God. There's been shown out in space where hydrogen just seems to appear out of nothing and go back into nothing. It's kind of like quarks and when you go into quantum mechanics and that sort of thing. So the hydrogen atom is the simplest atom that there is, that we know of. That's a whole and complete atom. And it comprises most of everything, including us. But how do we get it? Because it's not free in nature. It is in space, and they've even thought of making spaceships with great big scoops on them that can, as they're going, they just get their fuel because they collect the hydrogen that's free in space. But here on the planet, it's always tied up with something. There is a lot of hydrogen, but it's always attached to something, and it takes energy to pull it apart. In us, we get it mostly from our food, because there are bacteria that when they digest our food for us, they actually split it down into its molecular and atomic form, where as it splits apart, all those hydrocarbons, the hydrogen becomes free and then comes out into the bloodstream. This is also very important. Now, your body does have the means of splitting the water directly using various enzymes and stuff, and I really want to study that some more, because if we can split water using virtually no energy, then we have a virtually infinite energy source on the planet. So that's another spin-off of what could happen here. So it's really important to keep the blood levels of hydrogen up, and the bacteria do that. One of the reasons why this particular generation that's coming up actually live shorter lifespans than the previous one for the first time in history, I believe, is because of antibiotics. They're a miracle. It's good to have them. They've saved probably millions of lives, but they also kill the good bacteria with the bad bacteria. So it's my opinion that a person should be increasing their immune system efficiency rather than eating antibiotics that get rid of the hydrogen-producing blood. Okay. Scientific study, I just saw a study that came out of Japan that what they did is they took a bunch of people, Japanese old people, and measured the hydrogen that was in their breath from the older people and their family. And then they measured the hydrogen in the breath of the people that didn't live as long and their family. And they found that the people with and this was a big study, the people with the highest hydrogen lived the longest. Simple as that. So the hydrogen, this is one way that they're saying that the hydrogen is important, and the bodies that can produce the best hydrogen or the most hydrogen from the food, those bodies are going to live the longest. Now, everybody can't do that, genetics, bacteria, whatever the case may be. So what I'm doing is promoting hydrogen supplementation. And in this case, what we're able to do is increase our immune system where we don't need antibiotics. I've been drinking the Browns Gas infused water since 2005. I haven't been sick a single day. And I've had, if you list the top 10 major stresses that can happen, like death of a loved one and moving and construction and all these kinds of things, I've had them all in these last 10 years. I've not been sick, even though I've been around sick people. I've not even had a sniffle since 2005. People are sick, aging, and dying because they don't have enough hydrogen. It's dehydration in the truest sense of the word. Brown's gas is a mixture of hydrogen and oxygen, because all we're doing is splitting the water. I say all we're doing. You'll learn there's a little bit more involved in that. But it's a mixture of hydrogen and oxygen atoms. And the body uses that hydrogen and oxygen to actually increase its immune system and heal, rather than mitigating symptoms like our modern medical system does with drugs. I'm really not down with that. But I'll skip over that for right now, leave my ranting to another time. People using the Browns gas, and there's hundreds of people out there doing it now. There's people in the crowd right now that have told me, even as I walked in, how they were doing, and things like curing melanoma and losing weight and congestive heart failure symptoms disappearing. But people can lie, okay? And I'm vested in this because I'm selling machines. So I'm not credible. I could be telling you stories. Plants don't lie. Fish don't lie either. If you go to this particular URL that you see on the screen right now, you'll be able to download a document that I've put together of a series of experiments that people have done where they've fed plants water that has been bubbled with the Browns gas. And the things that happen to the plants are just amazing. You'll see a little video a little bit later. And fish, similar thing. You'll see that video as well. So what is Browns gas? Just so we have a clue of what's going on here. Technically, it's the entire mixture of a combustible gas that's generated from a machine that's specifically designed to electrolyze, that means split the water, and not separate the gases. Traditional Faraday electrolyzers split the gas into hydrogen and oxygen streams. We keep it all together. So, simply, it's hydrogen, oxygen, water vapor, and electrically expanded water that's made by splitting water on demand. We'll get more to the electrically expanded water in just a second. The first theory that scientists would tell you is that it's the mixture is diatomic hydrogen and oxygen, H2 and O2. That simply isn't true. And it's demonstratively not true with their own equipment. Another theory, which I came up with Brown's Gas Book 1, was that a large portion of it was monatomic hydrogen and oxygen because I was getting great amounts of volume of gas that couldn't be explained with Faraday equations. So I thought that a lot of it was just simply gas that hadn't recombined into H2 and O2 and therefore was monatomic. That turned out to be incorrect as well, at least mostly incorrect. Theory 3 I came out with was the electrically expanded water. This seems to be the closest to something that is actual fact. And this is water that hasn't split into hydrogen and oxygen. It's water that has absorbed electricity and turned into a gaseous form. A person could think of it as a fifth form of water called plasma. Plasma exists as a state of matter, and the form of water, we're going from a solid, a liquid, a gas, what they call EZ zone water, which Gerald Pollack has identified, and this would be the electrically expanded water. There's a lot of things about water that we don't understand. I don't understand, and I have an open enough mind to simply start trying to learn rather than closing it off. Number 4 is magnacules, and that was Cittini came up with that particular idea. Brown's gas contains water vapor, which is H2O, diatomic hydrogen, diatomic oxygen, monatomic hydrogen and oxygen, and this combustible gaseous form of water, which is also the reason why my electrolyzers seem to be over unity, about 130% efficient, because they're producing more gas than the Faraday laws predict. So knowing what Brown's gas is helps us design electrolyzers that generate a higher quality of gas. It's important to maximize that electrically expanded water portion of the gas because that's where the magic is. So we have the water vapor, we have the monatomic oxygen, the monatomic hydrogen, the diatomic oxygen, the diatomic hydrogen, and the electrically expanded water, which Stanley Meyer, for example, also had as well. Right here on his chart, he had the water molecule gathering energy and the hydrogens getting further apart from the oxygen and therefore turning into a gaseous state before it actually split. So, if you look at the spectrometry of the hydrogen, you see the 1 down here, okay, showing the monatomic hydrogen, and then you see the H2, and then you see the monatomic oxygen along with the water vapor right in this zone here, and then the diatomic oxygen up here. If you, and this just tells you the various weights of it. So if you go with the dry gas, you still see the monatomic gas, you still see the diatomic the monatomic hydrogen, the diatomic hydrogen, and you still have water vapor, supposedly, but it's dry. The water vapor is gone. So that's the electrically expanded water. And then you have the diatomic oxygen over here. So you got a distinct diatomic oxygen, monatomic oxygen, and the electrically expanded water portion there. So the missing 7%, when they actually figure out how much of what gases are there, they find that there's a 7% they can't even identify. The gases are unknown. So this is the Santilli molecules, and this is where you can call the clustered water. You actually get water that is in the gases that is greater than 32 by weight. So in this particular case, and this is one of the most important slides I have, you can actually see that the hydrogen is being developed on the negative side of the plate. We're just going to look at this one cell right here, okay? Hydrogen goes off the cathode, and oxygen goes off the anode side over here, but right in the middle, you can very clearly see a line of gas coming out of the center of the liquid, which has nothing to do with the gas being generated on the plates. At this point, you can see that the gas that's being generated on the plates has not yet infused the water enough to get the bubbles out to the center. The gas that's coming out of the center is the electrically expanded water. So it's a gaseous form of water, which is not hydrogen and oxygen, but is highly energized. So if you haven't heard of Brown's gas, some of the other names, Brown's gas names, is like William Rhodes called it a common ducted gas when he invented it back in 1964. And some people also then called it Rhodes gas. There's a fellow over in Australia, New Zealand, who called it hydroxy. Spierig invented the gas independently over in Europe. Aquagen and HHO was Denny Klein. SG was on there for a little while. Null gas, HNG as another European. And then oxyhydrogen by Wikipedia skeptics. Everything you're going to do about Brown's gas on Wikipedia, they will automatically route to the oxyhydrogen page. They do not believe, or they don't allow anyone to believe, that Brown's gas is different than oxygen-hydrogen mixture. It's a blatant form of suppression. They would not accept any of those kind of charts, the mass spectrometry charts that I was putting up. They deleted everything as soon as I would put it up. They did not allow anybody to say that it wasn't just a pure diatomic hydrogen-oxygen mixture. No proof allowed. So, the health application of Brown's gas. The health industry has missed the importance of hydrogen for health up until the last, let's say, 5 or 6 years. Now there's an opportunity for us to actually push this forward and make some money at it. Not just me, everybody. So, my statements are not approved by the FDA, AMA, CIA, FBI, ATF, NSA, DHS. Just assume what I have to say isn't approved by any government, medicinal, or pharmaceutical organization. I'm not diagnosing or prescribing, but I am giving personal and customer testimonials, actual results that people have reported to me. In 2007, I spoke at a conference in Nexus in Australia, and this is a slide from there where I was saying that Brown's Gas for Health was a developing application. It's no longer developing. It's solid fact. The stuff that it can do is just getting longer every day. People need to know the importance of water in the body. There's a site called watercure.com where you can see if you just get enough water in your body. But that site doesn't know that you can actually drink water that is dehydrating. I'll get to that in a little bit. There are healing springs in the world, and one of the reasons why they're healing spring is because of the amount of hydrogen that's in the water. Homeopathy, there's a whole series of things that can be done with water and memory of water and what have you over centuries. People know of Emoto. Unfortunately, he died. He was doing some beautiful research with freezing water that was good water and bad water. I really wanted to get some Brown's gas water to him, but he died. So some people to thank really quickly. Joseph Bender and Norman Wooten, they helped a lot with my early research of the Browns Gas for Health. The ER1200 customers, I was wrong. I stand here and I say I was wrong. I've admitted on other videos I was wrong. When my customers who bought Browns gas machines that I was selling to fuel water torches as a fuel gas started using it for health purposes and reporting to me that they were curing cancer and things like this, I didn't believe them. I just laughed. It was crazy thinking. Torch fuel gas, using it for health. But people just kept coming at me, and so they told me. I didn't discover this. They did. And they convinced me eventually to try it myself, and I'm really glad I did. Lloyd Jacob, he came to my shop. He is a chiropractor. He wanted to know if Browns gas, since it had oxygen, he was doing oxygen therapies, would help his clients. Turned out that was the case. They had a huge amount of gain when he was using the Browns gas therapies, to the point where when his home-built machine, which he built using my Browns gas book 2, or a friend of his built actually, and then his friend moved away, and when that machine broke down, he called me up desperate. He said, my machine broke down, I can't get it fixed, my customers tell me that if I can't give them a Browns gas treatment, they're not going to come. He was essentially out of business if he couldn't supply him with Browns gas. So he said, can I buy one of your commercial machines? I said, yes, and he drove right up and bought it right away. John Lillis and Dr. D, they're a couple of people that did the Browns gas for health with plants, as well as a lot of other things. Chris Ekman was a university student, and he did a dissertation on Browns gas. A lot of scientific study. Dr. Tyler LeBaron, you're going to, if you look up molecular hydrogen online, we'll see him. He came to me originally back when he was a medical student because he had this idea that hydrogen was important. And pretty much the only medical student that ever did. And he's put together a website, Molecular Hydrogen, that is amazing. There are hundreds of studies now, but only in the last, I'm going to say 6 years, the medical or scientific community is starting to realize that there's something here with this hydrogen thing. And it's now coming. Daryl Mason, amazing man. He did a lot of research with me when I couldn't do the research because I didn't have a shop. He became my research arm, and I thank him. I wouldn't be here talking about this today without him. So, free radicals versus hydrogen. Hydrogen is the best, bar none, free radical eliminator possible. As soon as the free radical touches hydrogen, it turns into water, done. There's many enhanced waters out there, but you have to watch what you're getting. Because a lot of them, for example, they say high pH and low ORP, oxygen reduction potential. And both of those are true if you don't cheat. A lot of them put minerals in the water in order to raise the pH and cause the oxygen reduction potential. Those minerals are not healthy for you, generally speaking. Those minerals your body now has to deal with. So you can actually drink water that is dehydrating. It is another point. If you have a high, like a positive ORP, that means it's deficient in electrons. Negative ORP means it has extra electrons in the water. And your body needs those electrons. It uses those electrons. So if you have drinking water which has an ORP, a positive ORP, it's actually grabbing energy, grabbing electrons from your body in order to balance itself, to become neutral. So there's the ORP pH I was just talking about. I introduced what I call the ER50 in the summer of 2008. You'll see those ER50s a little bit later. It was a 50 liter an hour electrolyzer made for health purposes, and it worked really well. I've sold close to 700 of them, and the reports I'm getting back from people who actually assembled them are just amazing. And I have a 100% satisfaction guarantee. You'll hear about that a little bit later. Not one return. 700 machines sold, not one return. So colloidal silver and magnesium bars are also ways that hydrogen gets put in water. Colloidal silver, it's simple. You got an electrolyzer, essentially, that's putting silver ions into the water. Well, at the same time, it's splitting the water and making oxygen and hydrogen, infusing that into the water. They don't count that, haven't counted that, but it's actually Brown's gas going into the water. And then they have magnesium bars to get hydrogen, but you don't get the oxygen and you don't get the electrically expanded water, because all it's doing is turning the magnesium into magnesium oxide, and the hydrogen goes free. It does give you hydrogen, it is good, but it also puts a lot of magnesium in the water, which is not biologically bioavailable magnesium, not good for you, in my opinion. Transmutation, I'll just go through this quickly. There's a lot of transmutation happening. Your body does transmutation all the time. For example, if you don't have enough cholesterol, your body will make cholesterol. You could have a cholesterol-free diet, and you absolutely must have cholesterol. Cholesterol, in fact, high cholesterol, I'm getting off the topic a little bit. It's been proven that high cholesterol helps you live longer. Anybody wants to know more about that, you can do the research online. The people who won the Nobel Prize for getting the cholesterol down were wrong, and it's been proven wrong. But anyway, we'll continue. So the Brown's gas, with new water, you can do transmutation as well. That's one of the things that Joseph Bender and Norman Wooten showed me, where you could actually get solid materials, as many as 50 different minerals they were getting out of water that was just pure water. Absolutely nothing but oxygen and hydrogen, which is another reason why I say that water or hydrogen is the close to the God molecule, because I think everything is essentially made from hydrogen. The Brown's gas electrolyzers, like this one here, develop a sediment in them, and that sediment has been shown to be coming from the water. Again, at a different talk, I can get into that. The Brown's gas flame can have transmutative effects as well. For example, and one of the useful things supposedly it can do, I say supposedly because they're not allowing it to be done, is transmute radioactive material into inert material. So as soon as you play the flame on it and you melt it, it goes inert. The radioactivity is gone. So here's a partial list of ailments that have been reported mitigated, I'm not going to say cured, using Brown's gas to hydrate. The star atom, the ones that have the star, are ones that I have personal experience with. And I thought I was healthy. So addictions, pretty much addictions of all kinds. It helps mitigate them. Allergies, my wife has allergies, and it really helps lower the amounts of drugs that she has to take. She has really bad allergies. But when she's doing the breathing of the Brown's gas, she has to take almost none. In fact, I think for the last couple of weeks, she hasn't taken any Zyrtec. Arthritis. I had arthritis in my hands. Absolutely gone. 100% full mobility, no pain. Autoimmune disease, back pain, blood, all different kinds of things, bronchitis, burns. Oh man, there's one guy who was getting lots of burns because he was working with the torch and handling hot metal all the time, and he told me how fast it would be curing his burns. Many types of cancer, carpal tunnel syndrome. In 10 minutes, it's gone. It's one of the magic ones that you can really show. So if you know anybody who has carpal tunnel, or physiotherapists or anybody who deal with carpal tunnel, and you get them to deal with this gas, all they have to do is put a bag, and you can actually buy these gloves that look like hands, and you can just put it on your arm, put the hose for the thing inside there. In 10 minutes, the pain is gone, and it doesn't come back. So it's really fast. There was one guy who had a carpal tunnel syndrome so bad he was going to have surgery the next week. He did require 3 treatments a day for 3 days, and then his carpal tunnel was gone. No surgery required. Chronic fatigue syndrome. We just keep going. Constipation. All right, I used to poo once a week. Now I'm regular as a clock. Dehydration, as I explained, this is the most hydrating possible water on the planet. My eyesight has improved. I don't wear glasses anymore. If you look back in my early YouTube videos, you'll see the great big spectacles I used to wear. Now, I still have my glasses. I carry them here for occasional use while I'm driving or something, but my eyes are much better. The flu, as I explained, haven't been sick since 2005. Hair regrowth. Here's where I take my hat off. Now you can see I'm still mostly bald. But in the videos that you'll see coming up, if you look, you'll see that I have more hair. I was bald to here just last year. This much of the hair has grown back. It's really slow. It's just a hair or two at a time. I see more and more. But it is growing back. Heartburn. High blood pressure. Daryl Mason just reported to me that he had the high blood pressure medication. As long as he's breathing the Browns gas, he doesn't have to take his high blood pressure medication. Inflammation of virtually all kinds. It's like there's just anything. It helps everything. And it can't hurt anything. It's oxygen and hydrogen. Your body is mostly made of. Your body deals with it on an ongoing basis all the time. There is zero anything that it can do to harm you. Unless you have way too much of it and you have a combustible mixture in your lungs and you light up a cigarette. That could harm you. Neuropathy. This is one I keep forgetting because when I'm telling people the things that it did for me. My left hand was numb almost the whole palm, and the fronts of both my shins were numb. I couldn't feel any of the skin. And I started breathing the Browns gas. Now, I'd been drinking the Browns gas water since 2005, and I still got that neuropathy. But when I started breathing the Browns gas, I could feel the feeling coming back. And in about 2 months' time, my neuropathy was completely gone, which means that it helps heal nerves, which means that what's the biggest cluster of nerves you have in your body? It means it'll probably help anything having to do with the brain as well. Oxygen supplementation. There's quite a few people that are using the Browns gas instead of using bottled oxygen, like if they need supplemental oxygen at night. They just simply put on the nose cannulas, and you have the oxygen. So in this particular case, we just simply go like that. It's nice and comfortable, and you're breathing the Browns gas. Parkinson's disease was one of the very earliest ones, and I've always been trying to get a hold of Michael J. Fox because I love him as an actor, but I just can't get a hold of him. Those kind of people just have too many firewalls. Psoriasis. I did not know I had psoriasis. I always thought that thick, peeling white skin on my elbows, knees, and feet was normal. Back from the days I was working on the ranch, I had thick calluses and I had thick, peeling skin all the time. I lived with it all my life. I had no idea that it was a medical condition. I thought I was healthy. Within 3 weeks of my breathing the Browns gas, I had baby smooth skin. My psoriasis literally just peeled off, fell away, and it was nice, smooth skin underneath. Scars. I did not expect to lose my scars, and it did take several months. I was almost a year breathing the Browns gas, about half an hour a day, and it's better to do like 15 minutes in the morning, 15 minutes at night, kind of keep the blood hydrogen infused instead of doing 30 minutes at once kind of thing. But however it works for you. You do it however it works for you. But I can't even tell where my scars were anymore. The skin is so just normal skin. And I had some big scars. My skin, no one would believe that I'm almost 60. Tinnitus. One of the things I really wanted to get rid of. I was getting hard to hear people speak. I had tinnitus so bad. And I thought I was healthy. I didn't think it was that big of a deal. But when I started breathing the Browns gas, over time, took some time, the tinnitus has gone away till I can just once in a while. Yeah, I still have a little something, but it's no longer any kind of an issue. One of the things you'll learn when you do when you first start breathing the Browns gas or drinking the Browns gas water is you're going to pee a lot. your body seems to know that this is the water it wants, and it will immediately replace it. You drink a couple of cups of this water, it's going to be very shortly, you're going to be headed to the bathroom to your body, because your body goes, ah, and then gets rid of that other water just as fast as it can. Weight loss, I'm down to almost my weight that I want to be, at about 180. I was 220 2 years ago. So speed healing of wounds. This was my mother-in-law who had quadruple bypass surgery, and they took the veins from her legs. 3 months later, her wounds were still open and weeping. We started treating with the Browns gas just by putting Browns gas infused water in a cotton ball and putting it on her wound. And within 10 days, the wound was healed over and healing. And within 2 weeks, it was completely no scar skin. Warts. I love that my warts are gone. I had hand warts since I was a kid. Got them from my best friend. Still my best friend. And but I just noticed one day they were gone. Just gone. And then I realized the planter's wart on my foot hadn't bothered me. Every couple of months I had to peel off the thick skin, or else it felt like a stone in my shoe. And it was just gone. So again, I thought I was healthy. I was dealing with all these things all this time. So I say results vary. I've had people, like the first time I breathed the Browns gas, I breathed it for 15 minutes. I didn't sleep that night. I just couldn't go to sleep. I was just awake. I've had other people tell me that when they breathe the Browns gas, it just kind of put them to sleep. So every body is different. So here's my endorsement of the 700 kits that I've sold. And as you can see, just a box of kits. And then I started selling, after 2014, these fully assembled in a box. The reason I started selling those in 2008 as fully assembled, but the reason I put them in it, or partially assembled, you can see the chamber assembled right here. And then when the people would get them, they'd have to put on the electrical and wire it up. And that was the way that I sold them, and people were doing it, but people were always wanting a fully assembled version. Well, after I was here in 2014, all my assembled ones that were going out in a box designed for game boards. It was a USPS box designed to transport game boards, like Monopoly, that sort of thing. And all during that time, since 2008 until 2014, they had never broken a single one. After I spoke at the conference in 2014, USPS started breaking every single one, without exception. My customers were not getting them. I tried all kinds of ways to get the units to them, and eventually the only thing I could do was put them in a crate, actually build a crate and put them in it that was strong enough I could park my RV on it, and they haven't broken a single one of those. But there was even one that I double boxed. I went on their website and I followed all their rules. I put the cushioned box in cushioning and put it in another box, and I sent it out. And do you know what they did with that one? They opened both boxes, broke the electrolyzer, and repackaged them and sent it on to my customer. And that was the only one of all the dozen, actually about 14, that they had broken by that point, that I didn't get the insurance payment for. And I had to actually almost sue the USPS to get my insurance. I essentially told them, I don't care if I win or lose when I sue you. The publicity that you are breaking these things, an inventor's thing, will be enough. I could sell a bunch of machines. So they paid. Okay. So you see this particular machine here, that's a fully assembled. And once I was sending them in a crate, I thought, well, why don't I just simply fully assemble them in the crate, and then people can buy them fully assembled. These go for $968, because that's how much it cost me with the various parts that I had to buy and the time it took and what have you. I couldn't. So this particular machine, which you see right here, is my prototype of what I call the AquaCure, and it does exactly the same thing as that boxed one, but you can see it looks considerably better. and I'm selling these for $9.88. And the reason I can do that is because I decided this time I wanted to make some money with one of my inventions. There's been several people that have taken my technology and made seven-figure incomes. This time I want to do it, and I want to help as many people as I can do it. The market is big. We'll talk about that in a little bit. You can buy these machines using that particular link there. And there's a 20% coupon for any up until the 30th of August, which is, if you can take that coupon code down right there, it's good till the 30th of August, and you get 20% off. Anybody who buys one from me here, I'll be out at the table outside. I'll waive the shipping cost as well. So, this particular machine has enough, but not too much. You don't want to be breathing so much of the gas that you have a combustible mixture in your lungs. So that's too much, but enough. Okay? I have an online resources, so quite frankly, anything that we can figure to help you with this whole technology, we put in there. This machine comes fully assembled with attachments, which I can explain a little bit after. It comes with a 5-year warranty and my 100% satisfaction guarantee. You do not need to give me a reason. You want your money back, you send it back. That's it. I give you your money back. And now, this particular machine has a low liquid level shutoff. Okay? But a lot of these people that have these kind of generators of various kinds, they don't have liquid level shutoff, low liquid level. If the liquid level gets too low, the electricity can arc between the plates, and an arc in a hydrogen-oxygen mixture causes an explosion. You don't want your machine to be exploding. It doesn't matter that the that the machine can withstand the explosion. It's better not to have the explosion. So that's what this machine has. And it also has an anti-backfill safety, which means that when the machine cools down, usually these machines will create a vacuum because it's a hot gas. When it cools down, it condenses and and the cooling gas makes a vacuum that sucks the water back out of these chambers. Those chambers need to stay full of their water. You don't want the water going back into the machine. So this machine is designed to prevent that. A lot of machines are not. This machine has a timer and a full on-off switch. The on-off switch shuts off everything. It's like you unplug the machine. And then the timer is just convenient, so you can set the time that you want to do. Another thing is that the machines have full safety certification. And they have overpressure safety. Can you imagine what would happen if you're in bed and you kinked this hose and that machine just continued making gas? It would make gas until a hose blew off, or it burst, or it exploded. These machines have overpressure safety. And I use a relatively benign electrolyte. It is a lye and citric acid mixture that you could literally wash your hands with, like in the old days when they used lye soap. And incidentally, you can hook up this hose and make a little microtorch, and you can have lots of fun with the flame. We don't guarantee any kind of results, but we do have that 100% satisfaction guarantee, and I've honored that since 1984. I've been in business since then, and I intend to be in business for decades more. This is the AquaCure EA-H160, and it's assembled and sold by me, and I am tuning my horn. But my point is, I have the decades of experience to know what can go wrong and to design a machine that doesn't happen. So, to recap, Browns Gas hydrates living bodies, all water-based life forms, better than any other known hydrogen technology, because it's not just hydrogen, it also contains the electrically expanded water. So, Browns Gas is an example of how current health systems are failing us. It's also an answer to practical alternative health solutions. There are quite a few of them out there. You can buy books on them. I'm sorry to say that the medical system kind of veered off and went into the wrong way. These are ways that we can do things ourselves in our own home. And there's a ground floor opportunity to sell a lot of these machines, not just me. So what can Browns Gas do? Well, this lady shows us. It can hydrate better than any other known technology, so we have hydrated and dehydrated. As you get older, it's a proven scientific fact that people drink less. They lose the thirst, and they don't drink as much water. Plus, even if you're drinking a lot of water, you may be drinking, and it quite often are, the wrong water. Water that doesn't have the extra electrons and stuff that the body needs for health. So the body does what it can for as long as it can. But eventually, it just gives up. You need that supplementation. And for us guys, same thing, hydrated, dehydrated. So, I present an opportunity. I'm not soliciting funds for stocks, bonds, any other such thing. I'm just simply saying there's an opportunity. Here's my interpretation. Now's the time to jump on this, to catch the wave. The scientific community is coming up, and there is a lot of competition coming out there. I'm looking for people to partner with who can have marketing expertise, business. So let's make some money. If we put a machine in every household, like Henry Ford said, he wanted a car in every driveway, and there's 130,000 households, and if we go with $200 profit per machine, stipulate, that's $26 billion potential profit. It's not unreasonable. I have 4 of these machines in my home. I've invested over $1 million to learn what I'm teaching you today. And I've spent decades gathering information and thousands of hours of research. I have a pretty good idea what I'm talking about. And not only that, when other people who know what they're talking about, I can understand what they're saying. I can also find the frauds really quickly or the people that don't know what they're talking about. I've self-funded, but no one has ever, few. I did have an angel one time, but few have ever funded me in my research. I'm recognized worldwide, and when I say something works, it does. I believe that I have the most efficient commercialized Browns gas technology out there. I have seen rumors of people whose machines or technology is more efficient than mine, but none of them are commercialized, and I haven't yet been able to duplicate or prove it for myself, though I do keep looking. And I've sold thousands of Browns gas electrolyzers and have the customer feedback. So, as I was saying, I know what goes wrong. I've tested the Browns Gas for Health market with several hundred machines, and I already have a functional business with an excellent reputation. We need a manufacturing facility, which I'm setting up in New York right now, and one in Canada, but we need marketing expertise and business management expertise. I'm a really good inventor. I suck at business. How much money do we need to invest? Well, just for an idea, it costs about $60 so far to sell a machine and a $200 profit. The $60 is actually parted in the marketing cost of what I was talking about before. So with $200 profit per machine, if we sell 1 million machines, it comes out at a nice $200 million. I'm good with that. So I can sell 1 million. There's billions of profit out there. There's enough room for everybody. This is a time-limited ground floor opportunity, and it's a home health application. Virtually everyone needs one, even if they don't know it. The competition, well, there's a lot of people out there that are realizing that during 2008, when the fuel prices went up, a whole lot of people jumped on the HHO Browns gas for fuel savers, and they're realizing they can convert that technology over into HHO for health. And the Oriental companies, you'll see in a little video we're going to play shortly, are far ahead of us, far, far ahead of us with using Browns gas and particularly the health application that we're talking, and they are coming to America. It'd be better if we sold it ourselves and kept the profit in-house, so to speak. The ionizer electrolyzer manufacturers are now realizing that it's really the hydrogen in the water that is giving the low ORPs and stuff. And again, what they do is they take the water as it exists. I call it a flow-through electrolyzer. So they take essentially tap water, which has minerals and stuff in it, and flows through an electrolyzer as positive and negative plates. And the ions that are more negative get attracted to the positive plates, and the ones that are more positive get attracted to the negative plates, and then it flows out in two streams of water, supposedly the high pH and low pH. That's all good, and it is good water, but it also did not take out all the minerals. They actually require the minerals in order to get that splitting of the water streams. So you are getting non-bioavailable minerals in the water that you're drinking. You also are getting the hydrogen and some oxygen, although the oxygen mostly went out the other stream, in the low pH stream. So it isn't as healthful as the Browns gas bubbled water. And you can do something with Browns gas that you can't do with virtually any of the other hydrogen technologies, and that is breathe it. And for myself, it's the breathing of the Browns gas that really started to turn my health around. I didn't get as sick. Obviously, my immune system was enhanced just by drinking the Browns gas bubbled water, infused water. But I didn't start losing my psoriasis, my tinnitus, my neuropathy, my scars, my warts, any of those things until I started breathing the Browns gas. And there's no other technology on the planet that can make the hydrogen more bioavailable than by breathing it in and getting it directly into the bloodstream. So, this market's wide open right now. You're sitting on the ground floor of something, when we're saying the new Apple. Don't you wish you'd invested in Apple or Amazon or Google or any of those other companies? This is it. I'm telling you right now. There's billions of dollars to be made. This is a proven technology. So, think as you go to supper. We have a little video after this, but my presentation part is winding up. How to help me, because I'm asking you, how to help people get healthy and stay healthy. And now we'll look over the video. If you want to play that, John. And I'll ask you to pause it from time to time. Okay, so here we have, I'm used to pausing it myself. That was Lloyd Jacob. Okay, pause, please. Lloyd Jacob and his niece did this plant project. Lloyd Jacob came to one of my symposiums that I had myself, and he was actually helping cure people. Are you able to pause this, John? Pause? Anyway, all right, so here we go. There's actual video showing the electrically expanded water going. Anyway, it was the niece of Lloyd Jacob that was doing the first water feeding plants experiment that I got. So she did it. She was doing a college study, and for her paper, she did this Browns gas bubbled water and feeding the plants, and that particular thing went by. But she got 4 times more growth in radishes with the Browns gas bubbled water than she did with the control of the regular well water. Start again. This is the electrically expanded water actually being produced. John, start again, please. Okay. So this is John Lillis, who I thanked a little earlier. And here in the germination rate, the plants come faster. And here you can see the plants, this is lettuce, germination. And the lush growth that you happen to see in this next, there's the Browns gas bubbled water. Big difference. Now, of course, I did choose I cherry-picked that particular photograph, but it gives an idea. Here's Dr. D, again, with the ER50 electrolyzer. And Dr. D, he does artist work, again, showing the germination rates in his garden. And he also does the fish thing. So plants don't lie. People can lie. Plants don't lie. Pause, please. So in that particular case that you just saw go by, can you pause? Thank you. There was a hydroponic setup growing lettuce and some other various plants, and the Browns gas bubbled water, which you can see happening right here in this particular tank. So the Browns gas is being put into the tank, and then the water is being come up and go through the tubes for the hydroponic setup. In the hydroponics, the plant growth was 10 times more. I'm sorry it's gone by it so you can really see, but plants were only this high with the regular water and this high with the Browns gas bubbled water. Okay, start again, John. So in this particular video, this guy has strawberries. And what he's going to show you is that the strawberry plants produce 10 times more growth and strawberries. They flowered out and produced fruit way before the other plants down here. You can see down here, those plants they haven't even bloomed yet. And these ones have not only flowered, but produced as many as 12 fruits. Whereas the other ones with just the regular water haven't even produced a flower yet. That's how fast the growth was growing. I'm currently have some people who are doing cannabis and finding the same sort of growth. Of course, weed grows like a weed. but you give it this Browns gas and it just goes crazy. So anyway, this is the strawberries, and another thing that he did is then he took see these little ones up here? He took big ones and put them down here and took the little ones and put them up there, because he discovered that as the Browns gas was going through the tubes and then coming down to these tubes and down to these tubes, the first plants got the most, and they sucked that hydrogen and electrons out of the water, so the plants further down got less and less, and then they, even in the same tube, they got there was nothing left. So you have to keep infusing. Pause, please. Thank you. So in this particular video, you're going to see a couple of fish. I'll show you with the marker when it comes up. All these fish are the same age. They were the same fingerlings. Part of them were put in a tank with just regular oxygen being bubbled into it, and part of them were put into a tank with bubbled water, just like you're seeing right down here. And that's what they breathed. The fish were literally breathing the Browns gas. Okay? Start again, please. So then they put the fish from both tanks into the one tank so that you could see the difference between these big fish and these little fish. And just around the corner here, you will see, okay, this big fish here, and his little brother's coming up right behind him here. And there. See the difference in those fish? They're the same age. So fish don't lie either. Go ahead and play. Thanks. So this guy is just explaining about the fish in the video. And you can actually see this video with full sound and everything. If you go to the Plants Don't Lie webpage, you just Google Plants Don't Lie, and it'll give you the webpage with all this stuff on it. Okay, see this hand and see that hand? Did you see the difference? This hand here? It was a lot less wrinkly. Just after one Browns gas treatment with a glove. And again, this is the wound thing. I just threw it in this loop that I was playing. And this explains how in 3 weeks the wounds were entirely healed. Doctors could really use this stuff. instead of putting all the ointments and stuff on. Now here's a woman who is getting a treatment where you just put a bag on the arm. She has carpal tunnel. We put a hose into the bag, and then she just sits there for 10 minutes, and after 10 minutes, the carpal tunnel is gone. And it's as simple as that. And she just explains that she's had carpal tunnel before. This was a friend of ours that worked in a job that gave her carpal tunnel. But if she quit doing it, which she has now, by the way, you just don't get carpal tunnel anymore. When the carpal tunnel is mitigated, it's gone. It doesn't come back unless you keep doing what caused it in the first place. And there's the ER50 again. These machines work very well. But I couldn't make these machines as inexpensive as they were making over in the Orient, China. So this particular machine that you're seeing here is actually ordered from China. The bare bones basic and everything, and then I modified it with my technology. So that's why I can keep the machine and sell it for less than $1,000 instead of selling it for like $5,000. If I had to build it here in North America, that machine I'd have to sell for $5,000. But because most of it gets built over in China, I'm able to sell it for $1,000. But the thing that really makes it work is done here in America. Nice thing about these old machines here is that I had transparent tubing, so I could actually see the what was happening in the cells and what have you. So here's me breathing the Browns gas for, I'd say, almost the very first time. And in a minute, when you see me in this video in March of 2016, you'll see how much less hair I have. So that's one of the ways that you can tell. So in this case, I'm bubbling through 2 bubblers. And again, so you can see people finally convinced me by showing me Oriental people that were breathing the Browns gas. So I thought, well, I'll give it a try. And here's some of the videos that they were showing me. You can actually walk in off the street and get a Browns gas treatment. That's an Epoch machine. Just like you can buy a cup of coffee here. You just walk in and get your treatment. And the spas and beauty shows, they're actually showing the Browns gas for spa treatments now as well, because of how much better it does for your skin and age. So these are various machines that they have over there, and they're just breathing the gas. It's very simple, very straightforward, and you can do it any time that you can be standing or sitting or laying next to the machine. I have one of these next to my computer, and I do quite a lot of computing, so I have lots of opportunity, and then one next to the bed. And of course, I have Browns gas machines on all my vehicles, and I have water torches. Pretty much use Browns gas for everything around my life. So altogether, I have 7 Browns gas machines that I use in my life, in my home, and so again, all the spa treatments. And that particular woman is saying she needs to tell, because she gets, it's all bright and cleans her mind and stuff, she's going to recommend it to her husband. Yes. She was very enthusiastic. And I had in my shop, I was helping people build their machines. This particular woman, a little funny story, her son took the ER50 there and just held it shut until it built up a good pressure, and then released it pressure with a lighter and blew up the machine. Plastic bits everywhere. Luckily, no one was hurt. But again, it comes down to, those are the kind of things that can happen. You have children, especially teenage boys around. You can, I've built the machine so that it's safe. hopefully. I imagine there's various things that they can do about that. Okay. So this now will go into a question and answer period. Anybody got any questions? Yes?
If we could have questions up here. Thank you very much, George Wiseman. That was fantastic. There's a big green square here and a line.
George, I was wondering if you can store that into like an oxygen bottle, if you can store the gas after producing it.
No. The question was, can you store the Browns gas? And I absolutely, well, I used to say I'd never breathe it either. Okay? However, when you, okay, back. Back in the beginning, I learned that Browns gas was explosive. And I built electrolyzers that could take a 70 psi, because at that point that's what everybody in Browns gas was doing. Yule Brown had 70 psi electrolyzers. I didn't know that 7 psi was fine. Okay? So I built the chambers to contain a 70 psi Browns gas explosion. And I did that by exploding Browns gas in the containers. And it would bend half-inch steel. Okay? A 70 psi explosion would bend half-inch steel. I personally don't recommend storing Browns gas in bottles because it's a bomb. Mm-hmm. And that's from personal experience. And I love blowing things up. Mm-hmm. I've had a lot of stories I could tell. But I definitely say keep it as low a pressure as possible. These machines, we try to keep them somewhere around less than 3 psi, as low as 1 psi. And therefore, you use the gas on demand as it's created, and don't store it.
Oh, so you couldn't put it in an oxygen tank or something like that?
If you put it in an oxygen tank, and this is another thing I discovered, there's an inverse relationship between temperature and pressure. If you can keep the temperature down, you can pressurize it to a higher pressure. But there will be a pressure where it will self-explode. Guaranteed. Okay? And if that pressure is high, you could take out a city block. This is not joking around. You do not want to have high-pressure Browns gas stored in a bottle. It can and eventually will self-explode. Okay. As the temperature rises, that pressure, the self-explosion pressure, drops. If the temperature of the gas is too high, it's actually a fairly low temperature. So even if you have a stored bottle and it starts to get hot in the sun, it can just explode spontaneously.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like to reiterate that. I've worked in the hydrogen field for the last 15 years. Every once in a while there comes along people that want to try to bottle this and sell it. It is very non-habit forming. They usually die and take a lot of people with them. I'm not joking. The last one was in Anaheim, California. 6 people died in the explosion. Don't bottle Browns gas.
It's safe if you just use it as it's produced at low pressure.
What maintenance do the machines need?
Pardon?
What maintenance do the machines need?
Maintenance. A very good question. My machines are designed for virtually zero maintenance. You do have to put water in it. Put distilled water in it only. And then once a year, you just simply undo the cap there and dump out the electrolyte and whatever sediment has formed in there, squish it out with water. You can put some citric acid in there. It tends to help clean the plates. And a citric acid solution. Citric acid is something you can buy in the Whole Foods store. It's usually used for canning. So they usually have in the bulk section. And just make a saturated solution of citric acid, pour it into the machine, swish it around, and pour it out. Pour back in your lye solution if it's still clean, or make up a fresh batch of the lye solution and pour it in there, and you're good for another year. It's as simple as that. Virtually maintenance free.
So you're saying when you say don't bottle it, like, for example, I work basically 10 hours a day at work, so I like to take just a 1 gallon water jug. So you're saying don't even put it in that, just use it on demand.
Oh, when I say don't bottle it, I mean the actual gas.
No, I'm not wanting to do that.
If you're talking about the water,
yeah.
Absolutely. Now,
okay.
A good point, though, is that the water has a 1-day half-life. That charge of electrons you put in the water dissipates right through, like hydrogen's the smallest atom, and the electrons are even smaller than that. It essentially dissipates into the environment. So you the sooner you can drink the water after it's bubbled, the better. But if you keep it cold, and for some reason I do not yet understand, if you keep it in an aluminum container, they have aluminum drink bottles and stuff like that, then it holds the charge longer. So cold and aluminum, but generally speaking, it has a half-life. In other words, the charge is half dissipated in one day.
Gotcha.
So you have no problem bubbling it in the morning. Do it in the morning, though, before you go to work, rather than the night before. And take your gallon jug, and it'll be fine.
Thank you.
I make colloidal silver with distilled water. Could
Yes.
you charge that with brown gas?
Absolutely.
Thank you. I'm going to take a machine.
Sounds good.
I wondered how much information you had on remediation of nuclear radiation or contamination.
If you
using
go on my website, I have quite a thick document. It's all electronic where you can download. I think I charge $30 for it, but it's got video of the actual process of the radioactive mitigation happening, done by the Chalk River Research Nuclear Reactor in Ontario, Canada, along with a whole bunch of other documentation that shows not only how to do it, but how effective it is on different kinds of radioactive material. Unfortunately, it only is in high-level waste. There are ways of mitigating low-level waste, like what happened from Fukushima. Did I get that?
Fukushima, yeah.
Fukushima. We're getting a lot of low-level radioactivity in the Pacific Ocean, and the Browns gas doesn't do anything with that. But the high-level waste that's at the reactor could be entirely mitigated with the Browns gas in a very short period of time. One of my ER1200 machines, which would cost about $8,000, would eliminate all the radioactive material from a nuclear reactor on an ongoing basis. So there would be none have to be stored anywhere.
That would be outstanding, wouldn't it?
Yes, it would. But they don't want to do that because they consider that radioactive waste to still have energy in it. They can make nuclear batteries and things like that. So they're looking down the road and thinking, oh, you could have a home or a car that's powered by nuclear energy with this low-level waste, and you never have to put fuel in it.
Well, they're about to dump 1 billion pounds or something like 280,000 gallons or something like that of nuclear waste up there.
Yes.
And I was thinking about it. I brought this from a book, Atlantis Blueprint. I don't know if you've seen that.
I haven't seen it, no.
Well, I'll give it to you.
Thank you.
That just has some information on Brown's gas. It's kind of history, at this point, but it does mention that, and hope it's useful to you.
Thank you.
George, thanks for your presentation. It was lovely. I'm a doctor, and so a question would be, have you noticed or have you had any anecdotal evidence of drug interactions with brown gas or herb interactions with brown gas?
That is a really good question. Anecdotal and empirical evidence is all we have, pretty much. There are some scientific studies with actual Brown's gas rather than hydrogen, but not a lot. I have a couple up on my website. To get back to answering your question, is there interactions between the Brown's gas and drugs or herbs, if you're taking drugs or herbs? Yes, there is. It makes them more effective.
I would think so.
For example, the person that is taking the blood pressure medication I was just talking about, Daryl Mason, he takes almost none when he's breathing the Brown's gas. He does take still a little bit. My wife, who has really bad allergies, was literally taking Zyrtec every day. As soon as she started breathing the Brown's gas, she now hasn't taken the Zyrtec for 2 weeks. So that, and when she has to, it just happens to be 2 weeks this time, but occasionally there's a big pollen thing, or she pets the cats too much, or something like that. And she loves the cats, but she's allergic to them. And then she takes a Zyrtec, but it's very little. So it makes it more effective. The anecdotal evidence shows that it makes it more effective.
And then do you have any understanding or have you had any people give you a sense of how long that needs to be separated from the time they either drink the Brown's gas water or breathe the gas, and when they do take their medication? Or is it stay in your body long enough where you just start having to drop your medication or your herb dose?
It would vary by body, I would think. Daryl Mason says 2 days. Without breathing the Brown's gas, he has to be back on full blood pressure medication to keep it down.
Interesting.
So that's him in his situation. There probably are things like, if I stop breathing the gas, my psoriasis doesn't come back immediately, or something like that. I don't know how long it would take, or even if it would. But I imagine there's a varying amount of time depending on the ailment and the body.
And then have you noticed, or have you tried infusing Brown's gas into oils?
That's hydrogenation.
Yeah, but I mean, have you noticed any applications for something like that, using Brown's gas?
I haven't personally, but I think that that's open to experimentation.
Okay.
I know that the Brown's gas itself is good, but I know that, like, when they make margarine and they're bubbling hydrogen through the lard or whatever they're doing to make it makes it into a solution that, in my opinion, is not healthy. Gives heart disease. But so it may be that this beneficial gas, if you do that, it's not good. But there may be things that you can do, and I guess, and that's where it's open to experimentation.
Well, there's something called rectal insulfation, where you can take, as an example, clean olive oil, you put O3 in it, ozone, and then you can use it to heal problems in the rectum, whether it's cancer or something like an ulceration or hemorrhoid, something like this. I was just wondering if there's anything was tried or experimented using oils and Brown's gas.
Not that I'm aware of, but that's a different way of using the oil than I was thinking, and you are a very advanced doctor. My hat is off to you, sir.
Well, thank you very much. It was a lovely presentation. We appreciate it.
George, I've got a question for you.
Yes.
Maybe you could reiterate how many liters per minute you're actually breathing right now, and just give us some idea about the volume that we're working with.
That's a good question. This is putting out about 60 to 65 liters per minute, depending on the temperature. As the temperature rises, it puts out a little bit more. So approximately a third of that is oxygen, and 2/3 of it is hydrogen. So if you were, so that's like 20 liters. I'm sorry, an hour. My apologies. An hour. I don't know where the minute came from. Brain fart.
Thank you.
So about so we're talking about a liter of gas, or a quart, which is about the size of this container here, of gas per minute. And so per hour, it's about 60 liters of the gas. So per hour, it'd be about 20 liters of the oxygen and 40 liters of the hydrogen. So if you're needing some supplemental oxygen, then that can pretty much take care of it. And you can pretty easy tell with they have dosimeters for the oxygen. You can measure or see what your blood oxygen is really easily.
Thank you for that clarification. Another question, and then we'll be done.
Sorry, just something popped.
Yes.
Something popped into mind here. Have you heard of something called exercise with oxygen therapy?
I haven't.
It's kind of interesting, but what they did is they started it in Germany about 20, 25 years ago. And at the time they used, of course, bottled oxygen, which is very dangerous to transport. But what they would do is they would put somebody under exercise, usually on a treadmill, and then they would have them breathe in about at a rate of maybe 10 to 14 liters a minute of 94% concentrated oxygen. And what they found out is they think that when they put a pulse oximeter on your finger, which tells you how much oxygen is circulating in the blood, they used to think at 100% you couldn't become any more saturated. What they found out is under pressure with the oxygen, high oxygen, and under working your body as the same time that you're breathing it in, the plasma actually takes up the oxygen and it super saturates the body. Well, they've had people where anywhere from 18 to 36 visits, and they've completely rehabilitated their cellular respiration, which the only difference between, somebody like my age at 58 and somebody else who's 20, it isn't. The main difference is how you exchange gases, at the capillary beds. So it rehabilitates that mechanism. I just wondered if it'd be interesting to see if Brown's gas doing the same application provides any more benefit.
I think that is an excellent thought. Like, absolutely excellent. The only caveat I would put on is that you don't want to breathe so much oxygen that you have a combustible mixture in your lungs. It scares me to think of somebody having an explosion
Spontaneous
from the
combustion,
inside.
sure. Yeah, that's true.
And the Browns gas is very easily ignited. Even static electricity, if you're wearing cotton or something or scooting your feet across the carpeting. There was one customer that reported to me, he had a bag of hydrogen, or the Browns gas on his arm, and the dog needed to be let out. So he disconnected the hose, but he kept the bag on his arm, and he shuffled over to the door to let the dog out, and happened to get a spark when he touched the doorknob, and it ignited the Browns gas in the bag. Now, a low pressure, I'm going to call it explosion because it really isn't, but that's best I can describe it. It goes pop. It scared him. The dog pooped on the floor. But there was no damage. It didn't even singe his hair or anything like that. My point is it's relatively safe, but you don't want to be breathing in so much of the hydrogen, which I think it's a great idea what you have there. But I would just use a machine like this and do that and see what could be done. I think that's a really good thing to try.
Interesting. Thank you.
I'm really anxious to see the pathophysiology as we work with this with different doctors and evolve this knowledge. We've got one more question and then we'll break.
Yes, sir. Thank you for your technology. My question is the discussion about flammability. How long, say this hose is running out in the air, the hydrogen by itself is highly explosive, but when it's mixed with the oxygen, is that less? Or
Yes, that's a really good question.
how long does it take to go inert or whatever you want to know?
That's a really good question. If I was to hold up a lighter, if I was half an inch away from this, but let's just say an inch, it would not ignite the gas. The gas is dissipated that much. There was a study done by the American government because they have tanker trucks of hydrogen going down the road. Okay? Now the hydrogen itself is not explosive, but if that tanker truck splits open and the hydrogen is released, it mixes with the oxygen and then it is explosive. They needed to know how long an explosive mixture would be in the area if they had a tanker truck split open. So they did it, and they discovered that in 2.5 minutes, a tanker truck load of hydrogen was no longer explosive. So this particular hydrogen coming out of here, which is 2/3 of this particular bottle, you can just pretty much think of what the liquid level is in there. You get that much hydrogen a minute. The hydrogen dissipates in the air the fastest of any gas there is, and it rises. Okay? So this gas that's coming out of here right now is dissipating in the air and rising to the ceiling, like my hat. Thank you very much. But and dissipating. The point that I wanted to make, which brought up the thought, was you can't be in a room, even a relatively small room, like a bathroom or something like that, and get a combustible mixture in that room if it has any kind of ventilation whatsoever, because the hydrogen will find those crevices and disappear. If you have to be in a hermetically sealed room for a long period of time to build up enough of a mixture in fact, the machine would run out of water before it built up a mixture high enough to be a combustible mixture in a room. Even a relatively small room that was hermetically sealed. It is absolutely safe to release the hydrogen into the air as far as that's concerned.
Thank you.
We do have time for another question. Please come on up.
Hi, George. Thanks for all your research. I've built one of your ER50s, and I've used gold-plated plates, and I'm getting all the benefits that you've talked about here with pain relief, and I've had a lot of cramps and gotten relief from that, and burns that have disappeared. So I just thought maybe you'd want to brainstorm and think of how there could be a way to compare just the stainless versus the gold plating and see if there's a way to show scientifically if there's a difference or any additional benefits with the gold plating.
That's a good idea. We want to learn everything we can about this technology. I'll be out at a table during the weekend, so we can brainstorm. Sounds good?
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Anyone else? Thank you very much, George Wiseman.
Cheers.